This Mother's Day, celebrate all the women who make life brighter with a gift from Pandora Jewelry. Choose jewelry that reflects what she means to you and the moments you share. Make it even more meaningful by personalizing your piece with an engraving in your own handwriting, something no one else has. Either a date, a name, or something unique to you. Because the best Mother's Day gift says more than I love you. It says I appreciate you. It says I see you. Find the perfect Mother's Day gift at your local Pandora store or online at pandora.net.
Hey listeners, this is Peter and welcome back to the History Shorts. Today's episode is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the world. Download Podcast Republic today, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on History Shorts. At 8:15 in the morning on August 6, 1945, the United States dropped the atomic bomb on the city of Hiroshima, Japan. The explosion killed approximately 80,000 people instantly. By the end of the year, the death toll would reach somewhere between 90 to 140,000. Everything within roughly a mile of the hypocenter was obliterated, and in a two-story wooden rectory approximately 8 blocks, or about 1 kilometer, from the center of the blast, 8 Jesuit priests survived. They walked out of the rubble with minor injuries. None developed radiation sickness, and all 8 were still alive 31 years later. Their survival has been called a miracle. It has also been called by scientists and skeptics something considerably more complicated than that. Our history brief today returns to the History Shorts conversation series and a chat with the best-selling author Cody Cassidy. A quick word from our sponsors.
Now I'd like to introduce you to Meaningful Beauty, the famed skincare brand created by iconic supermodel Cindy Crawford. It's her secret to absolutely gorgeous skin. Meaningful Beauty makes powerful and effective skincare simple, and it's loved by millions of women. It's formulated for all ages and all skin tones and types, and it's designed to work as a complete skincare system, leaving your skin feeling soft, smooth, and nourished. I recommend starting with Cindy's full regimen, which contains all 5 of her best-selling products, including the amazing youth-activating Melon Serum. This next-generation serum has the power of melon leaf stem cell technology. It's melon leaf stem cells encapsulated for freshness and released onto the skin to support a visible reduction in the appearance of wrinkles. With thousands of glowing 5-star reviews, why not give it a try? Subscribe today and you can get the amazing Meaningful Beauty system for just $49.95. That includes our introductory 5-piece system, free gifts, free shipping, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. All of that available at meaningfulbeauty.com.
This day in history. On April 22nd, 1970, the first Earth Day was celebrated across the United States, with millions of Americans participating in demonstrations to promote environmental protection and awareness. On April 22nd, 1889, the Oklahoma land rush began, as thousands of settlers raced to claim land in newly opened territory, transforming the region almost overnight. Story of the day. The 8 men living at the rectory of the Church of Our Lady of the Assumption in August of 1945 were German Jesuit missionaries. They had come to Japan as priests and teachers, assigned to a small Catholic mission in a city that was, by the summer of 1945, one of the last major Japanese urban centers not yet subjected to American bombing. Hiroshima's relative preservation was not accidental. The United States had deliberately kept several Japanese cities off the conventional bombing list, including Hiroshima, in order to preserve them as potential targets for the new weapon being developed at Los Alamos. The Jesuits, living out their daily routines of prayer, mass, and mission work, had no knowledge of any of this. On the morning of August 6th, Father Hubert Schiffer, a 30-year-old German Jesuit who would later become the most prominent voice among the survivors, had celebrated Mass and sat down in the rectory kitchen for breakfast. He had just cut into a grapefruit when the sky turned white. Schiffer later described what happened next with a clarity that 30 years had not diminished. An invisible force lifted him from his chair, hurled him through the air, and then spun him like a leaf in a gale. When he opened his eyes, he was lying on the ground outside. In every direction, as far as he could see, the city of Hiroshima had ceased to exist. Buildings flattened, fires everywhere, silence, and then the sounds of the dying. The physical damage to Schiffer himself was just a few fragments of glass in the back of his neck. The other Jesuits had similar accounts: thrown by the blast, showered with glass and debris, shaken and bruised. Father Hugo Lassalle, the superior of the Jesuit mission in Japan, received splinters in his back. Father Wilhelm Kleinsorge suffered cuts, and Father Hubert Schiffer recorded in his diary that the injuries were minor, nothing from the atomic energy that had been unleashed around them. The wooden framework of the rectory remarkably remained standing. The church itself, though damaged, did not collapse. In a reconnaissance photograph taken shortly after the bombing, the building is visible, a lone structure rising from miles of flattened ground. In the hours and days that followed, the Jesuits did not leave. They moved through the devastation, administering last rites, offering confession and communion to the wounded and dying, and helping to bury the dead. The work was immense. The suffering around them was of a scale that had no precedent in human history. And as American military doctors arrived in the weeks following Japan's surrender, the Jesuits became objects of considerable scientific interest. The doctors told Schiffer and his companions that their bodies would begin to deteriorate from radiation exposure. This was supposed to be imminent. That was what happened to survivors at this distance from a nuclear detonation. The doctors, however, were wrong. No radiation sickness developed. No long term physical effects materialized. Schiffer himself was reportedly examined over 200 times by scientists and medical professionals over the course of his life. None of them could offer a fully satisfying explanation for his condition. He died in 1982, 37 years after the bomb, of causes unrelated to radiation. The theological interpretation of the Jesuits' survival came from the men themselves, and it was unanimous. At the Eucharistic Congress in Philadelphia in 1976, with all 8 surviving Jesuits still living, Schiffer spoke before a large Catholic gathering and offered his explanation. They had survived, he said, because they were living the message of Fatima. They prayed the rosary together every day in that house. He was careful with his language. He said in one account that he would not call it a miracle exactly, but that he believed that they had been under the special protection of God. The Catholic community embraced this story with considerable enthusiasm. It fit with a broader narrative of Marian protection, pointing also to the Franciscan friary in Nagasaki, which similarly survived the second atomic bomb with unusual preservation. The scientific community offered a different kind of answer, or rather, several partial answers that together do not fully resolve the question. The first is distance and building orientation. The Jesuits' rectory sat approximately 1 kilometer from the epicenter. This is within the zone of devastating destruction, but survivability at that distance, while extremely unlikely, was not physically impossible, the scientists said. The building's orientation relative to the blast wave, its construction, and the specific topography of the surrounding area may have provided some degree of shielding. The second is that the Jesuits were not, in fact, the closest survivors. Other individuals survived the blast at even shorter distances from the epicenter. Izo Nomura survived approximately 170 meters away, sheltered in a basement. Akiko Takakura survived approximately 300 meters away, inside a bank building. The survival of people so close to the blast, though rare and unexplained in individual cases, was not unique to the Jesuits. What distinguishes the Jesuit story is the combination of proximity, the group survival of all 8 men, the absence of apparent radiation effects, and their longevity afterward. That combination has never been completely explained by physics or medicine. A nuclear weapon expert quoted in Catholic publications stated that from a scientific standpoint, what happened to the Jesuits defies known physical laws, that all eight should have received lethal radiation doses at that range. That assessment has been disputed by other physicists who point to the variables of blast, geometry, and shielding. The honest position is that science is genuinely uncertain. The Jesuits of Hiroshima spent the rest of their lives bearing witness to what they had survived, to what they had seen, and to what they believed had protected them. Father Schiffer traveled wildly, telling his story hundreds of times, meeting the co pilot of the Enola Gay in New York, and eventually becoming, in his own quiet way, one of the atomic age's most distinctive moral voices. He had been sitting 8 blocks from the most destructive weapon ever used in warfare. He had eaten half a grapefruit, and he had walked out to find a city gone. Whether what preserved him was the specific geometry of a blast wave, the orientation of a wooden building, the grace of God, or some combination of all these things that our instruments cannot fully measure, he never stopped being grateful for it. And he never stopped returning in his testimony to the same simple fact. 8 men prayed in that house every day. 8 men walked out. What you make of that is, in the end, your own to decide. The History Brief. The following chat with best-selling author of Surviving History, Cody Cassidy, comes out of the History Shorts Conversation Series vault. Search for the full episode wherever you're listening to this show.
Historians believe there's a single worst year in human history, or at least some medieval historians do, which was the year 536, and it was sort of the darkest year of the Dark Ages. There was actually another volcano eruption, but we're actually not sure where, probably in Iceland, but it sort of created a basically year without summer and sort of crops and famine, and eventually even the plague sort of arose because of the sort of global chill. And that one is certainly like history based, almost all history, but there's still a scientific component of sort of why volcanoes create such a dark, what happens when the sort of global temperatures drop 10 degrees like that.
Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and helping make this little show such a mighty success. If you are enjoying this show and would like to help with its production, you can always donate a few dollars at buymeacoffee.com or become a Patreon member to enjoy these episodes ad-free. Both those links can be found on our website at www.historyshortspodcast.com. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all again tomorrow.